Let's do the travel news, Airbnb edition. Hey everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to Explore Informed, where we dig into the details of travel so that the next time you go exploring, you can go a little bit better informed. I am a little bit under the weather this week, so if my voice sounds terrible, that is why. But I figured we would do a video anyways. So before we jump in, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please hit the subscribe button down over here. That will help you see our content in the future, and it will also help me to grow this channel. And if you don't like this content, let me know why. Comment down below. I honestly want to know your feedback, whether it is bad or good. So let's dive into a few recent Airbnb stories. Earlier this year, a journalist at Vice, Ali Conti, recently discovered a large scam on Airbnb. Basically, the scam went something like this. Ali had booked a rental in Chicago in September to attend a music festival. And 10 minutes prior to checking into her Airbnb, she received a phone call from the owner who explained that the Airbnb property that Ali had reserved would not be available. Of course, because someone had flushed something down the toilet, basically flooding the unit, or at least according to the owner. Instead, the owner offered up an alternate unit right around the corner. But the owner pressured Ali into making these changes fairly quickly, though he did supply pictures of what appeared to be a very nice rental unit. They both agreed to the change in writing inside the Airbnb app, but upon arriving at the property, it turned out the property was basically just a bunkhouse. It looked nothing like the alternative unit that was just offered up by the owner. Furniture and fixtures were sparse, there were multiple beds packed into some of the rooms, there was a hole punched in the wall, and the pantry housed nothing but a single bottle of soy sauce. Ali was then told the next day that she had to leave that unit as another tenant was arriving. And because the plumbing in the original unit had not yet been fixed, I bet you could see that coming, Ali had to bail on the Airbnb altogether. She booked a hotel and then decided to request a refund. Now it turns out that Ali had reserved a fictitious Airbnb that was part of a large scam that covered 8 cities and 100 properties. Now after some digging, Ali found a number of red flags, a Google phone number that couldn't be traced back to anyone. Stock photos are being used for profile pictures, and Ali eventually found multiple properties in Chicago that looked eerily similar and suspiciously had the very same furniture as a property the owner initially suggested as an alternative to the plumbing-plagued unit that Ali had originally reserved. Despite these properties being spread over multiple different listers, thanks to some creative sleuthing, Ali identified that all of the properties were seemingly owned by the same company and individual. When she tried to contact them, their website was shut off immediately, and the mysterious listings curiously rose in price to $10,000 per night, ensuring that basically no one else would book a room. The individual likely responsible also scrubbed their LinkedIn page and their social media accounts. It turns out, according to Vice, that the Better Business Bureau has received over 200 complaints about Airbnb through its scam tracker, with many of those complaints involving fake profiles. But what is most concerning though is that Airbnb historically has clearly not worked hard enough to police this type of activity. Now, while these listings were potentially needles in a haystack among all global Airbnb listings, there still needs to be some way to detect this type of behavior. And there are likely many other scams like this one out there on Airbnb and elsewhere on other home sharing services. So beware, you've been warned. Perhaps most interestingly though, the day after this story was published on Vice, the FBI, yes, the FBI contacted Ali, most likely indicating that they were interested in investigating the scam. But it took almost a week before Ali had a conversation with an Airbnb rep, according to her Twitter account. That is not a good look, Airbnb. Now, potentially as a result of this story and the tragic shooting of 5 people at a party hosted at an Airbnb, comes another interesting headline. The home sharing giant announced in early November that they intend to verify every single listing on their platform by the end of next year. According to The Verge, Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky called this the most significant change at Airbnb to date. This verification will apparently be a mixture of company and community monitoring. And Chesky said that Airbnb will triangulate information. So it sounds like Airbnb plans to use several different inputs and data points, but I'm not sure they've quite nailed down how they will fit it all together. Or maybe their CEO isn't good at communicating those kinds of details. Airbnb is also going to start manually reviewing high-risk reservations. One example noted by The Verge being a customer who reserves a very large house in the city in which they live, which might indicate they're trying to rent the house to have a party. Airbnb is also opening up a 24/7 rapid response line staffed by live operators and is instituting a new process to help customers find a listing of equal or greater value during a cancellation or displacement like the one that Ali had experienced. This is all certainly a step in the right direction, but it begs the question, will this process be effective? The Verge notes that Airbnb is serving 2 million renters every single night. That is a lot of reservations across a lot of properties, and the pressure is on Airbnb to execute, as it frankly should be. And only time will tell if these improvements actually stick and anything actually changes. Now, fortunately, it's not all bad news at Airbnb. Airbnb just inked a 9-year sponsorship deal with none other than the Olympic Games. I bet you didn't really see that one coming. Airbnb's deal will span 5 Olympic Games, starting with the 2020 Summer Games in Tokyo and extending through the Beijing, Paris, Milan, and Los Angeles Games. And there were rumors, in fact, that the deal was worth a whopping $500 million. But Chesky, the CEO, squashed those rumors on Twitter recently, or at least said this was not $500 million, whatever that means. According to Skift, both companies claim the deal will help reduce the costs for organizers of the games, will reduce the amount of new construction needed for accommodations, and will direct more revenue back into the local community. That all sounds great, but this will obviously require a tremendous amount of coordination and work from Airbnb in order to fully realize all of the anticipated savings and synergies. Airbnb is also noting that the deal will help create a more authentic experience for those attending the games and will help distribute the pressure from the influx of all of those travelers, according to Skift. Rosie Skift at Spinks makes a point that this is kind of like Airbnb putting on their big boy pants and saying hey, look at us. Our objectives align with those of the Olympic Games. We care about cooperation and teamwork, and we are a large global brand just like the Games. And that idea certainly makes sense given the recent negative headlines at Airbnb as they simultaneously make plans to go public in 2020. Regardless of how well they managed to execute over the 9-year deal, it was potentially a wise PR move at this point at least. But again, it's up to Airbnb and Airbnb alone to turn the ship of customer trust around. So that is all for the Airbnb edition of our Travel News Roundup. I've posted links to these stories down below in the description. As usual, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ExploreInformed, or you can visit us on the internets at ExploreInformed.com. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.